Okay, so we're going to talk about here. We are considering a couple service providers we know and or a brick and mortar that we know,
Mm.
a couple others that have been walking through some of this ugly money lending situation.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about what could happen to you.
Yep.
Lenders, you know, do
Yeah.
some crazy stuff.
There's crazy stuff that goes on out there.
There is, and sometimes that's your only option. But
Mhm.
I want to set the stage really clear up front. This is not a for startup episode. This is
No.
for established business owners that have at least 2 years
Right.
of revenue that they're making
Correct.
money.
Yes.
Now, this could be a great episode if you are starting up a business and you want to understand what are your options for lending in the future.
Mhm.
But this is really for our established business owners that are finding themselves like just hitting a brick wall and trying to find funding
Correct.
or are now stuck with bad lending, bad money.
We're not commercial lenders. We're not going to come from that aspect, giving any sort of lending advice in that capacity. But what we can do is tell you what our clients and people we know are walking through today
Right.
with some of the current economic climate and some of the lending practices, we'll say, as well as some of the risk tolerance of banks, what they're looking at now too, especially
Right.
where interest rates are at. It is very relevant to today's news, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. But also, a lot of these things that we're going to share are things that are like, they have survived the test of time.
Correct.
Yeah. Like nothing here is like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like you already said, 2 years.
Yes.
Frankly speaking, if it's I would say a rather legitimate lender of any sorts, they're going to want to look at 2 years of
At
your,
least. Right.
at
Yeah.
least 2 years of your history, look at some sort of projections and whatnot. If you're still within that first year, there's a reason why there might be only certain lenders that might want to talk to you.
Right. And certainly, it depends on what your financials actually look like.
Sure.
You look like
That
you're in the
too.
hole. Yeah. And you just turn this episode off.
Yeah.
Go check something else out.
Yeah.
Because if you're in the hole, like no one's throwing money at bad debt.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So let's get started.
Yep.
So it's going to be a short mini episode. We're going to talk a little bit about what some business owners believe they need as working capital
Yeah.
loans versus what I'm calling collateral backed loans, right?
Right.
Something that is tied to a property or maybe equipment. So let's talk through a couple of people that we know have gone through this. They had choices to make about equipment,
Mhm.
choices to make about maybe payroll or a lag there.
Yep.
And that there's
Staffing.
something,
Yep.
right, some type of staffing. Maybe expenses got out of control a little too quickly. I can only speculate on
Right.
different situations. And they tried to get approved several places.
Right.
Or two or
Right.
three of these tried lots of places.
And some of them, especially on the equipment side of the business, I know a lot of people sometimes, if you're a service provider of some sorts and you need equipment to achieve, your growth of your company, you're in this weird hamster wheel of, well, I need more equipment. I need to buy more things. I need to buy more items.
Right,
Maybe it's inventory. Maybe,
inventory.
yeah, you get this weird hamster wheel of,
Chicken or the egg.
chicken or the egg. Yeah, exactly.
But you have to have the eggs in order to sell them.
Exactly.
Right.
And yet you're still growing and you're like selling out. That's the
Right,
crazy
right,
thing.
right,
How do you
right.
balance that?
Absolutely. So we had talked before the show that
Right.
neither one of us know anybody who's had a successful working capital loan that's significant.
Right. No.
I believe at one time, like Axion, which is a nonprofit lender,
Right.
they do some lending. They might touch working capital, but they usually touch still something that has some collateral, like
Right.
equipment, and they will make sure that everything in your building or room is licensed.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's the key thing here. We know so many different entrepreneurs and business owners and very successful ones that when it comes like a working capital loan, have they gotten them? Yeah, but it was after their success. It was after a certain point in time. It seems like they reached there, like, oh, to get this growth, this expansion, it was like there. It wasn't like a startup. It wasn't like this
Right.
early days kind
Right.
of thing.
And the one or two that I know of, like through Axion or through some of those other lenders,
Right.
it's been like dog-eared for a certain project
Yes.
that they
Okay.
probably didn't need the $10,000.
Correct. I should have said that. Yeah.
Right.
It was dog eared for something very
Yeah,
specific
yeah,
that
yeah.
they're like,
Mhm.
yeah, we want to get behind this, right?
Yeah,
As a
right.
lender.
Mhm. So collateral backed would be if they had a property.
Yep.
If they
Equipment.
had a building that they were going to build.
Yep.
Yep. Equipment. So anytime that someone's considering a business loan, is there something that the bank can take away from you? They like those loans.
That's their favorite. That's their favorite. And oddly enough, that's the reason why student loans are kind of an interesting, how are they going to take that back?
Right.
Federal government